Hey, in this episode of Ask Aaron, I'm going to discuss how to future-proof your digital marketing for success. Let's get into it. Now, the idea for this video actually came a couple of days ago when I was having a conversation with one of our clients. We were discussing all sorts of ideas for their campaign and what we were going to do and how we were going to do it. And we actually had some really good ideas. And some of the things that we sort of noted down and that we're going to now implement into their campaign were sort of themes and topics that I routinely tell brands that they need to be doing, things they need to be mindful of, the way they need to be thinking about things and their approach. And I thought actually this make a really good video for the Ask Aaron series, because there are some characteristics and some traits that successful brands do time and time again. And the first kind of key one is to really understand what your brand looks like when it's finished. Right, and this is for a lot of brands, it's like, well, why would I worry about that? But having a clear vision in your mind and ideally written down of what success looks like, what the brand looks and feels like when it's finished. Now, you might be building a brand to sell, you might not. It doesn't matter. You might have an end goal in 5 years or in 10 years. It's, that's where we want to sell or we want to do this. That doesn't really matter. What you need to do is be thinking about what does it look like and write down what the brand looks like when it is finished. It's a really useful exercise, and it's something I encourage all of our clients to do, is describe what success looks like. Really, really important thing. And if you haven't done it, just take a minute to sort of step back and go, when this business is done, when I'm really happy with it, when I look back and I'm really proud of where we've taken the brand or what that looks like, what does it look and feel like? That's a really important step. So that's something I get the brands to do. And often from that, it sends you down rabbit holes of thinking, oh, okay, well, that means we need, if it looks like that, we need to start thinking about this. Or if we need to do this, then we need to start doing that. Really, really good exercise to do. And as part of that, what is key to do when thinking about future-proofing your digital marketing is think long-term. All too often, brands get very caught up in the here and now. And it's very easy to do because it's a very busy world we live in. There's always something to do in the moment, but think long-term. Give yourself the luxury, afford yourself the luxury of thinking long-term about all facets of your digital marketing. So a year from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now, what does that look like? Absolutely key. Having an understanding of this channel split is what I call it. So as a brand, how reliant are you today on X channel or Y channel? When channels, I mean SEO or paid or referral or email or social media. How reliant are you on those channels now? What is the channel split? What did it used to look like? What does it look like now? And what does it look like? What does it need to look like to align with your overarching plan for when the business is finished? If you think about that and think, what is the split? An ideal that we encourage a lot of our brands is we say, go for a third, a third, a third. So you want a third of your traffic to be coming in via repeating customers, via organic, via branded search. Most brands are going to have that. And for most brands, it's more than a third. Then you want a third coming in via organic channels. So within that, it's referrer, it's your SEO, it's your content marketing. Those new customers, top of funnel, finding you via a variety of different means. That's a really good, and often that's less than a third for most brands if you exclude their branded traffic. That's a really lucrative one. It can be a pillar of your future success. And then you want a third of your traffic to be via paid. So, and that might be paid social, it might be paid Google ads, but often because that's you paying to drive eyeballs to your brand, to your product, to your services, to increase your brand's prominence. So a third, a third, a third. Generally, it's not always it's not always an exact science, but that's often a good split. And generally, we see brands that are too heavily weighted, on one channel or the other, and the split is not right there. It causes them issues as they grow. And when they start thinking long term, well, right now we're too heavily reliant on this channel. We need to level that. We need to change things. Really, really easy to think about if you start to think of a channel split. Where were we? Where are we? What does that need to look like for success? Then create evergreen content. I've got a guide for that. I'll include a guide to this on in the comments. But make sure that you are creating evergreen content. It's very easy with just being busy to just churn out content, to give content to the junior on your team and just create us fresh content, put new content out. The successful brands are creating evergreen content. And what I mean by that is content that's going to add value now and content that's going to add value 10 years from now. Because what you want to do is be creating leveraged assets. And evergreen content is one of the best ways, it's a pillar when it comes to your SEO and your content marketing, of creating leveraged assets. And essentially what I mean by this is create great content, create it once, put it out there, knowing full well that it's going to add value, that it's going to educate, that it's going to offer insight and advice and expertise, that's going to genuinely help your target customer. And this will be different for every single person watching this video, but think about how can you add the most value. Create a guide that is a best on the web. And a little tip for you, if you want to know, well, where do I start? What is the best on the web right now? Go and Google the topic that you feel you can write about. Whatever is in those top 2 or 3 results, that's Google telling you, this is the best I have right now. And that's a great indicator for you to go, okay, well, can I better that? You know, if you look at something, oh, that's out of date, or I could write a better piece of content about that, great. That serves as your baseline on which to build. If equally you look at something and you go, they've blown that out of the water, there's no way I can beat that, move on and find another topic. Find a different angle to write about something. Very simple, very effective, but it works. So future-proofing your digital marketing, think evergreen content. Don't just be thinking this rip and repeat, putting stuff on the blog, because it's not going to have any value. If you're going to write a piece of content that's just going to go live and then sit and not drive any traffic and not add any value, it's a pointless exercise. Stop doing it. So think about creating leveraged assets that you own, that are going to sit on your website. And that brings me on to another key thing that I tell a lot of our brands to be doing, is build your email list. Because all too often, it's very easy to be very active on social media and on this and on all these different channels, but and they're great and they play a huge part for all e-commerce brands. But you don't own that data. So make sure that you are building a list. You can do that by creating evergreen content, by using lead magnets, there's 101 different ways, which I'm not going to get into on this video, but there are lots of creative ways you can encourage people, entice people, running discounts, running offers, to sign up, to give you their name, their email, and sometimes a little bit more information to get their details, because then that's an asset that you own. And there's a recurring theme throughout all of this in future-proofing your thing is you want to own it. You want to create the content and assets that you do it once and it's going to add value for a lifetime, and then get as much of your customers' data as you can so that you own it, you can control it. Simple again, but very effective. Then it comes down to securing links. Now, there's so much written about links and link building and digital PR and so on. The way, and I've touched on this in other videos, the way we always think about links, and the way you should if you want to future-proof your digital marketing, is think about relevance. Forget the latest fads and the latest trends and, oh, this tactic seems to work right now. And we've seen this in digital PR of recent years, and this is working right now and all of that. Bypass all of that. Think long-term. Forget trying to get links that are just going to appease Google. Instead, think of them as, where are our customers online? What are the publications, the blogs, the websites that they are engaged with? Takes a bit of research. How are we going to get onto those? And it's more difficult. And if it's more difficult, that's a good thing, because if it's more difficult for you, it's more difficult for your competitors as well. And it will often take consistency. It will take hard work. It will take, repeating requests and demonstrations of your expertise and the added value, but eventually you'll get there. So build it into a long-term strategy and know that it's why we build dream publication lists for our clients. Sometimes it'll take a couple of years to get them in them, but that's fine, because we know that once we've got that relationship with that media title, that journalist, that blogger, we can leverage that, and that's going to play into the overarching future-proof success of their digital marketing campaign, because those links are super relevant, because that title is exactly the place where we want to get our client featured, because they are in front of their target customer, right? Rather than subscribing to the latest fad, oh, we need to be over here, or we need to be doing this, we need to be doing that. Relevance is key, and take a long-term approach. Then when it comes to, the different channels, there's so many different social media channels and SEO and content marketing and this, that, and the other. Just focus on, a couple, generally speaking. So we tend to look at our brands and say, which are the channels that historically have driven the most value? Let's focus on those. Otherwise, you end up if you spread yourself too thin, classic, you're never going to get anywhere. You're never going to make some progress. And we see that a lot. So if you haven't, like at the moment, we've got some brands right now that we're working on where they have for years been all in on paid. So the first few months of their campaign, sometimes the first year, when they come to us, we will do nothing but their paid, because we need to get those ducks in a row. We need their paid to be working and working really well, and improve it from what had been happening before. And only then will we then go, right, now we need to introduce the next channel, because otherwise if you try and spread your focus too thin, you just end up making incremental steps and you don't make quantum leaps that you need to do in terms of achieving your overarching goals. Another thing that we encourage a lot of our brands to do is work in 2-year cycles. So this is a really good one, that based on where you are right now, think in 2-year increments. So in the next 2 years, we need to go from here to here, and then the next 2 years after that. The reason for that is, with SEO, it takes time. So your year one, the work you're putting in year one will pay dividends in year 2 when it comes to your SEO. And that's true of content marketing. That's true of a lot of organic stuff. Even your paid, to be honest, the work you put in the first year will pay dividends in that second year. So if you're planning in 2-year increments, that is something we do. It's how we're able to see. I mean, we see year-on-year success, of course we do, for our clients. But within 2 years, it's a very rare time where we don't make a 2-year plan and don't meet that marker, and we don't actually excel past it. So just think in 2-year blocks. That's a characteristic of a lot of the brands that we work with that see real success. Be clear on another thing that we see as well is, be clear on, regardless of the size of brand you're working on, who's doing what. Have clear lines of responsibility. So, and this is true whether you're doing some of your marketing in-house, some of it's external to an agency or a freelancer. Be clear on who's responsible for what is a really important one, to make sure that you are set up, that you can address the key things that need to be done and you can do them in the right way and get everything done. And all too often, if the lines are blurred, oh, I thought you were going to do this, oh no, that's on you, and oh, we outsourced that, oh no, we're now bringing it in-house. Try and have clear lines and then stick to them. Again, that's very clear. So a lot of our clients, they often will have 1 to 5 people in a marketing team that will do a lot of their writing, that will do some of their creative, that will be the kind of the glue that brings everything together from the brand's perspective, but they don't have the technical expertise, the strategic expertise, the paid knowledge and expertise. So that's why brands work with us. That's why brands the land over. They work with agencies. They bring in that external expertise. They bring in that those additional sets of eyes to look at things and be able to bring a perspective and experience that would cost most brands, a lot of money and a lot of time, and be very difficult for them to bring that in-house. I mean, the really big agencies tend to get to that point, but a lot of your SMEs, your sub 30, 40 million turnover brands tend to bolt on 1 or 2 agencies to support, and that's exactly where Evergreen fits in. So those are just a few things. So think long-term. The first thing, just to recap, what does the brand look like when it's finished? It's a weird thing to think of it like that, but kind of write it down. What does it look like? Okay, with this many people, with this turnover, with this profitable, our customer, we're getting X amount of new customers, we're selling X amount of product. This is where it's coming from. The more specific you can detail that, the better you will be. And it's something we encourage our clients to do. Think long-term, be clear on channel split, be creating evergreen content. I cannot emphasize this enough. It's a staple of how we have been able to grow so many e-commerce brands over the years. It's so important. I'll include the link to our guide. We've got some fantastic resources on evergreen content, so do check those out. Think about whether it's evergreen content, whether it's creative, whether it's whatever you're creating, create leverage assets. So think, right, we're going to create this content once. We're going to put this on to demonstrate expertise. We're only going to do it once, and it's going to pay dividends, pay value, demonstrate value for years to come. That's our approach to what we're doing. Like this very video, I'll create this video once. Hopefully people will be seeing it, watching it in years from now, and I've only had to spend 15, 20 minutes once recording it, and it's leveraged content. It will pay dividends for months, years to come, maybe, hopefully. Build an email list is another key one. Links, think relevance, think target customer. Don't think trying to just tick Google's boxes. Focus on not one channel at a time, but just don't try and do everything all at once. Work in 2-year cycles, and be clear on who's going to do what and what you're going to do in-house and what you're going to do external. So there's about 10, 12 tips there. Hope at least one of them is useful for you and gives you food for thought. I'll give you one bonus tip. which is very, very of the moment, which is Google is increasing with the rollout. There's a lot. I'm going to do other Ask Aaron videos on my thoughts on AI and all of that. But with the rollout of AI and Chat GPT and all of these things, there's a lot of talk about this going on at the moment. One thing we're seeing from Google and Google's rolling out is the requirement for or the opportunity for brands, should I say, is in building the profile of your key people within your brand. So that brand, personal branding is taking ever more importance. So with more and more AI content that's going to come into the mainstream, brands having a clear identity in terms of their tone of voice and their content on their website, when it comes to creating that leverage content, is going to become more and more key. And within that, it's building the personal brands and the online authorities of your authors, your key people. So something we're doing as an example, and we're going to use ourselves as Evergreen as an example, is we're going to be building the profiles of all of our team members. And it feeds into Google's EAT. So Google got an acronym: expertise, experience, authority, and trust. So it's like E.E.A.T. And that principally is around you as an author being the expert in your field. So when you're creating this evergreen content, you can create it. If you want that content to work even harder, if you want to have those assets work even harder and be future-proofed in a world of AI that's going to become more and more mainstream, a top tip is to assign what you are writing to the expert who has written it and build their profile. Now, you might be a brand that has one key person that is, they are the expert. Fine, attribute it to them if they're happy to do so. You might have multiple people in your brand that they are the respective experts in their different discipline, which is what we're going to do. It doesn't matter how you do it, but don't just have the content assigned to the brand. Don't just have it almost be great content, but it's anonymous and it just links somehow back to the business, back to the brand. Assign it to a person, because that, my friends, is going to become increasingly important for how Google sees content, and it wants to be able to look at all this great content that you've put up and be able to tie it back and go, and that is the person providing that great content, and they are featured over here. And it all ties into the links and all of the other stuff you're doing. It will feed back to the person who is the authority, and that person then is the face, the name, the person behind the experience, the expertise behind your brand, which gives your brand the gravitas that it needs. So that's just something to be mindful of. That is something that we're going to see more and more people talking about in the weeks, months, and years ahead. So if you're not doing that, just think about how you might leverage that. Hope this video was useful. If you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, please do. I'm going to keep these videos coming because I enjoy writing them. I've got loads rattling around in my head, so I'm going to keep sharing stuff. So I hope there's some little nuggets in here for you. Do subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you haven't joined our newsletter list, do subscribe to that. I send a weekly update on a Tuesday morning, always filled with loads of goodies and insights and updates in terms of what Evergreen's up to, but mainly digital marketing insights and what's working, what's not, and different ideas and tricks and tips and so on. So thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, I'll see you on the next one. Take care.